Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to continue with our milestone project and adding movies. Now, in the last video we added these tasks and we created a bunch of them, like deciding where we're going to store movies, what is the format of a movie, to show the user the main interface and get their input, and also to allow users to add movies, show movies, find movies, and stop running the program. Now, I think we've done a couple of these, so I'm going to just add an X here to say that we've done them. And I think what we've done is we've shown the user the main interface, that's this line of text here, and we've gotten their input, and also we've allowed the user to stop running the program when they type Q. Now, before we can allow users to add movies, I think we need to choose what it is that they're going to add and where they're going to be stored. So we're going to do these two tasks up here, where to store movies and what is a movie. In a larger program, as I said earlier on, normally these movies would be stored in a database or maybe a file or something like that. But because we've not looked at databases and files yet, we're going to store these movies in a structure that we do know. Now, what might that be? I'm sure you guessed a potential correct data structure. I would use a list, but you could use a set if you wanted. I wouldn't recommend using a tuple. So a list, I think, is a good choice. So I've created a variable called movies and made it equal to an empty list. This is going to store all of our movies when we are running this program. So we've decided where to store the movies. Now we have to decide what is a movie, what's the format of a movie. For me, I think that a movie is going to be a dictionary that has a name, that's going to be a string, it's going to have a director, that's also going to be a string, and it's also going to have a year, that's going to be an int. These are going to be my movies. If you want to store something different, by all means, feel free to do so. I mean, this is your program. It'll be fairly straightforward to add different things in there. Now that we've decided what the format of a movie is going to be and where we're going to store them, we know that when we add a new movie, what we're going to do is create a dictionary that looks like this and put it into our list. So let's go and do that. Underneath the menu function, let's define the add movie function. Again, if up till now you've not felt confident to develop this function on your own, and you feel like you are more confident now, pause the video and give it a go. And I'm going to keep saying this because it's really the best way to learn. Okay, now that hopefully you've tackled it or you've done it earlier on, we're ready to ask the user for the details that we're going to store in our movie. So what we're going to do is ask the user for a name. We're going to ask the user for a director. And we're going to ask the user for a year. Now, we did say the year is going to be an integer, so I'm going to turn this into an int right there as we go along, just to make sure that the year is an integer and I'm not going to use it as a string by accident or anything like that. And then all we want to do is make sure that we create a new dictionary and we put it into our movies list. So what to do? Movies.append and create a new dictionary here, which is going to have the name, director, and year keys. Notice how I've created this dictionary here inside the append function, and that's totally fine to do, but if you prefer, you can create a separate variable up here, say like movie is this, and append the movie here. Totally up to you what you prefer doing. This may be slightly more readable for you. If you choose, you can do that, but for me, this is fairly readable. This tells me that what I'm appending to my list is a dictionary that has these pieces of data. Okay, and I know that this is a movie because the list is called movies. So I don't have to define a separate variable called movie just to tell me that what I'm creating is a movie. Now we've got our add movie function. whenever we go and run this function, we're going to ask the user for 3 details, and we're going to append a dictionary with those details into our movies list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to evaluate the flow of the program again just for you, and then we're going to run this program and check that everything's working well. As soon as we go down to line 58, we've got our menu function call. So we're going to jump over to the menu function, where we're going to ask the user to enter something. If they type A, we're going to jump right into the add movie function, which is defined down here. And this is fine because this function is already defined by the time that we run our menu function. So we're going to ask the user for the movie name, director, and year. We're going to construct a new dictionary with the 3 keys, and the values are going to be these variables up here. And then we're going to append that dictionary into our movies list that is defined at the top in here. Okay. So then we're going to finish running that. We're going to skip the elif, and else statements, and we're going to ask the user for input again. They can type A again, in which case we will go back to repeating the loop. This will be true because A is not Q, and we will ask the user to add another movie. And so on until the user types Q, in which case when we repeat the while loop, Q will be equal to Q, so this will be false, and we will stop running the program. When that happens, we will jump to the end of the while loop, where the function ends, so then we will jump back down to line 58 and run line 59, which is empty, and then exit our program. So because inside this menu function call, the entire program's running, we will potentially be adding a bunch of movies inside this menu function. That's inside our while loop. So what we can do after running the menu function is print our movies list. Then, when we run the menu function, we'll add a bunch of movies. We will exit the menu function at the end when we type Q, but our program won't exit immediately. It will first run this line, print movies, and then it will finish running. This is why it's important for you to know exactly where your program is going step by step, because this is now going to allow us to make sure that our function is doing what we want it to do. So let's run our app. Once again, you can right-click app.py and run it. Or if you've done that before, PyCharm will tell you that this app thing here on the top right is available for running and you can just run it there. Okay? But normally I'd recommend that you right-click the file and run it, as then you'll make sure that you are running the right thing. So again, we see here our interface, our user interface. We can enter A, L, F, and Q. We're going to type A since that's the only thing that's working. And we're going to enter movie name. I'm going to enter the matrix, the director. I'm going to enter Wachowskis, the 2 sisters, and the release year is going to be 1994. Then I'm going to type Q. And notice how I was right and the movies get printed out after. What we've got here is a list with a single dictionary in it, including the name, director, and year that we've entered earlier. Notice how the year is an integer, which is all good, and the others are strings. So this is pretty awesome. We've got really now a working application, not terribly useful yet, that allows us to add new movies into our list and then show them out to the user. When we start adding the other functionality in the next couple of videos, we're going to find much more use for it. Though, of course, because when we run this program again and we type Q, we get an empty list. This program isn't the most useful that it could be. Every time we run the program, the list gets erased because Python only remembers it within the current runtime of the app. So this is a clear limitation of our program, and it's one we will surpass when we look at files and databases later on in this course. So this program could be more useful, but that doesn't mean it's not a great program to get started. And again, I'd encourage you, if you've not done so already, to try to finish writing the last 2 functions. And if so, let's go on to the next video. I'll see you there.